Hello everyone. I hope some of you are here. I know it's really sunny outside. In fact, it's super hot. So we've been going outside in the morning because, to be honest, it's mental on the beach. I mean, it's really busy. So we've just been going outside, getting our exercise and our walk first thing in the morning. And then maybe if Mabel's up really late, we'll go out in the evening too. But to be honest, in the daytime, it's just nice to stay in and chill and read. And so maybe do a cheeky Facebook Live. Hi, Kathleen. Thanks for joining me. Hello, Laurie. How you doing? How have you been feeling these last few weeks? Are you Are you going to be seeing some relatives soon, as of tomorrow, or is traveling still a little bit difficult? Hey, Bex. Mwah, hi, love. Hey, Jennifer. How you doing? Thanks for coming to see me. Hey, Sharon. How's it going? Are you just chilling out, doing? Are you going to sew along with me, or we're going to watch and then sew later? I'm going to take it really slow. So if you like, basically all you need is one fat quarter. And shall I give you the measurements now? So perhaps if you're not ready to sew with me and you'd like to, and you happen to be in your workroom, then I can wait for a few minutes and then you can sew along with me, because it's actually really easy to do. I'll mention these measurements again. Sorry if I don't answer your questions right now. I'm just going to give you guys a bunch of measurements just in case you do fancy joining along, and I will mention them again, and I will answer your questions in the comments later on. For adult headband, out of a fat quarter, ideally we want quilt weight fabric. We want 2 rectangles of 20 inches by 8.5 inches. And I'm going to talk about what happens when you heighten that rectangle and when you lengthen rectangle later on. But just as a starter headband, I recommend 20 inches by 8.5 inches, and you'll need 2 of those. For a child, because children, I've done Mummy and Mabel matching headbuds, and I'll tell you what, I'm so suddenly really busy, and I've got a lot of make headbands for my mummy friends now. If you're making a child headband, your rectangles are going to be 17 inches by 7.5 inches. And if you don't have the elastic to hand now, don't worry, because that's the last thing that you do. So I'll mention those measurements again. For adult, you'll want 20 inches by 8.5 inches. For a child, by the way, I'm basing that on my 8-year-old who's got a reasonable size head, just like her mummy. 17.5 inches by 7.5 inches. Yes, I agree, Nancy. The hair must not win. And I'm going to do something mega controversial in a minute that I've never done on a live before. So get ready. Please forgive me if I don't scroll through your comments too much, because I do have a tendency to yak a bit. And some people are saying, well, where's the tutorial? I've had to wait for 30 minutes of you gabbing on and there's no tutorial yet. So I'm not going to take too long having a lovely chat with you, though I'm more than happy to stay on and chat afterwards if you fancy. Hi, Julie, I'm ready, waiting too. Got to watch, says Jenny, as waiting from the elastic for you. Thanks, my love. There it is. There's the elastic. I've got loads to cut up. Thank you, ladies. And I will be sending it to you Monday, tomorrow. Right, Becky, look, even Becky says, come on, get sewing. I mean, like, she is the queen of Facebook tutorial lives. If she's going to tell me to hurry up, I should do as I'm told. All right, Becky, I'm going to get on with it. Laurie says adult fat quarter, 20 by 8.5, 2 times. That's it, honey. Bang on the money. That's exactly what you need. So, right, remember I was going to do something really controversial. Don't worry, I'm going to keep all my clothes on. I'm going to show you what my hair looks like underneath this headband. Promise you'll still like me if I do that, okay? No, actually, I'm just joking. I really couldn't give two hoots. Honestly, here goes. Well, actually, it's not hideous. I confess it's 2 days dirty, so it's not going wow. But obviously I can't sew because the fringe just gets in the way. Running is just absolutely impossible. So yeah, headband it must be. I actually made this headband. What's so funny? I actually made this headband just before the live, just to give myself a quick refresher on how to make it. And I made this one. Now, you see it's got the knotted detail at the top. I actually made this one asymmetric. So I wanted the knotted detail not to be in the center of my head because, as you can see, I don't have a center parting. My fringe always comes from, I had to think about this, right to left. So I wanted my knot to be more towards the right of my head so that I can have I've got this thing about having a bit of a peekaboo fringe. I don't know why. It hides one of the wrinkles on one of the eyes. No, actually, don't care about that. Just joking. So look, as you can see, there is, if you look at the ring, as you can see, the knot is asymmetric. And if anyone has a side parting, I will, and you're interested in knowing how to do that, I will explain in a moment. So right, let's get to business and make this headband, because I know that this world hair domination needs to stop right now. Okay, right, let's get going. Okay, so I have 2 pieces of, I'm making an adult version, and I have 2 pieces which are completely different. And the reason that I've done that is it's going to make it a lot easier for you to see what I'm doing. Plus also, there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't have 2 different fabrics. You know, like Becky, you could so do a cerise one and a teal one. It would be amazing. It would look really, really nice. And in fact, I think I should. All right, and if I do, I will show you. Okay, right, so 2 different pieces. I mean, ordinarily you'd be using both the same, but like I say, 2 different pieces. You could absolutely do that if that's what you wanted. Please forgive me if I'm not answering your questions at the moment. I'm more than happy to do that later and chat later on. So I'm just going to get on with the tutorial now. Okay, so 2 different pieces. And to start off with, I'm going to get my first piece and I'm going to fold it in half by bringing the short edges together and giving them a sharp, sharp crease, because what I want to do is to find the center point. Yep, Diane's got a side parting. Yeah, I know. I mean, like, if you have the knot in the middle and you've got a center parting, it just looks weird. So yeah, we all like a bit of customization, right? But I'm going to do the center parting headband now and then discuss how to do side parting headband afterwards. Capiche? Right, okay, so we've got our center point marked in the long edge center, and then we take that rectangle, fold it in half, right sides together, and matchy, and at the center point, I want you to draw a 3-inch long line along the center, 1/4 of an inch down, because all of our seam allowances are going to be a 1/4 of an inch. Now, don't worry if you forget all of these details. What I'll do is I'll pop them in a Word document, and maybe what I can do is either put them in the YouTube put a link to them in the YouTube live or something like that. I'll write it down in a document that's easy for you to refer to later on. So don't worry if you forget any measurements or that I've talked about in this live. So yeah, so we're going to draw a 3-inch line. Now I am comfortable ordinarily to just eyeball it, but when making this headband, it is a pretty good idea to actually draw the line because, well, you'll see why in a moment. So I'm just getting my Chaco pencil, and I'm drawing a 3-inch line on it. And I'm just going to do exactly the same with my other piece as well. So fold that in half, right sides together. Get the center top edge, and I'll use a blue pencil for that so that you can see that a bit more easily later on. And 3 inches long. 3 inches long on the center. And I'll show you how that looks. Okay, right, so you can see that's all I've done. So I've done my 3 inches long, and can you see that I've put two tails either side? That's to make my life easier, and it's well worth doing. So draw your 3-inch line in the center, 1/4 of an inch down, and do 2 lines because will really help. Now my next step, and I'm not going to bother. My next step is I'm just going to stitch along the line that I have just drawn on one of the pieces only. Okay, so I'm actually going to start doing the sewing on my blue piece. So yeah, that's what my blue piece looks like. You can't see the line as well, but I'm literally just going to stitch along that line and make sure that you do a few securing stitches forward and reverse at the beginning, at the end. And I'm using contrast color thread to make it easier for you guys to see, but obviously you would use matching thread. Yep, a good few securing stitches. Good ching. Okay, right. So yeah, pretty straightforward. Haven't done anything at all complicated. Are any of you guys actually sewing this along with me, or are you generally watching now and playing later? Let me know if you're sewing along. Elizabeth wants to know, can we make without elastic at the back and use Velcro instead? Not for this particular headband. Because I think you couldn't find a Velcro thin enough that would feel comfortable behind your head. And I don't think Velcro would work too well for headbands because I think you need the elastication to help the headband stay on. So I wouldn't recommend Velcro personally. Okay, right, back to this. Now that you've stitched your 3-inch line, press it open. I'm just going to use a seam roller, which is absolutely fine. Don't need to really use an iron. If you don't have a seam roller or an iron, just fingernail it. That's okay, because what this center crease is, I can take my head. This center crease is actually the stitching that's in this hole. I don't know if you can see it there, just there. That's what we've just sewn. You're not going to see it as long as it's nice and strong. It doesn't matter how wibbly wobbly or non-perfect it is. As long as it's strong, That's all that counts. And in fact, the lovely thing about this headband is it's a perfect beginner's project or your super quick present project, because no seam show. It doesn't matter if you've been at the gym, you go a little bit wobbly. As long as everything is strong, you're fine. Okay, right. So we've now got this part sewn tube. The next thing to do is to turn this part sewn tube right side out. So just take the tube, turn it right side out. Linda says, watch now, play later. Cool. Let me know if you come across a cropper at all. Julie's also playing later. Watching for now, watching for now. One for each working day. I like the idea of that, Nancy. I'm just reading all your lovely comments to each other. Okay, right now, so we've got our tube turned right side out. And what we're going to do next is we're going to bring these ends together, and it's going to form sort of like a circle. Well, it's going to look a lot nicer than this, but it's going to form a circle. So the thing to do first is take one side to the other side, right sides together. So right sides together. Does that make sense? So there's your stitch seam in the middle, as it's supposed to be. And we're going to take the two ends. Let's start with the one at the front, the one at the front towards the camera first, which is these ones. And we're going to bring these two sides right sides together. Now, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if that made sense. So the two flaps at the front, right in front of the camera, are going to go right sides together. And then you're going to stitch them together. You're going to stitch them together. Great. Thanks for letting me know, people. Excellent. Thank you. Cool. Okay, right. So right sides together. Now the trick to know is where to stop stitching. And that's really simple. We stop stitching basically where the end of our 3-inch line is. So your last stitch, the needle will literally drop into the end of the 3-inch line that you just stitched. So I'm going to bring those bits of fabric together, and even though I tend not to pin things, or well, especially when it's the luxury of not working with layers. Hey Becky, I'm not working with any layers. There's no interfacing, there's no foam. It's like I've gone on holiday. But no, it's a good idea, even though we're just working with two lovely thin layers, to pin. So pin and match those layers. So when you get towards the center, where the stitching, things are going to look a little bit jumbly. You can't make the fabric lie straight. That's to be expected. But just very carefully, you will, after a little bit of fiddling, be able to bring the two stitches from the start and the end of the 3-inch. You'll be able to bring them together. I don't know how clearly you can see that on the camera, but if you're precise and you take your time, bring those two stitches together. Now, it's not the end of the world if you don't do that, but it's just a private satisfaction thing that us sewers have. Like, you might not see it, but I know it's right. I know I'm happy with it. And that's important, isn't it? We all know that, don't we, ladies? Okay, so yeah, bring those two stitches together when you're matching your fabrics. And then pop a pin in. Ooh, don't stab yourself with the pin, especially when it's live, because you can't swear because there's lots of people looking. So pop a pin in. Now, I've got turquoise coloured fabric right at the end of my stitches, which makes it nice to see. But let's pretend you're working on a pale coloured fabric and you can't see the stitches as well. There's absolutely no shame in putting a nice line just to tell you exactly where to stop. So I've got like 3 indicators there. I've got my turquoise coloured thread, stop. I've got my pink line, stop. And I've got my needle here, stop. So that's where you should stop. And remember to do some nice securing stitches at the start and end of your stitches. So I'll sew this bit now. Again, quarter seam allowance. Oh, no, don't do that. Yeah, the reason why it's a good idea to pin, even if you're one of those hardcore never pin it people, is when you get towards the center, where you've turned things right side out and that knot in the middle, that makes the fabric shift a bit. So that's why it's a good idea to have those pins so that you can stitch without having to rearrange your fabric. And when you get to that marker, do a forward and reverse. And then, so there, that's my stitching there. Do the same now to the other side. So this looks all very weird and counterintuitive, and you've no idea whether this is going to be right or wrong, but don't worry, stick with it. So just kind of unruche the fabric and then repeat on the other side, do exactly the same. And you'll find the other side is slightly easier because you've more or less formed a cross. Can you see? Still a good idea to pin though. You know, I'm pretty lazy with my pinning, so if I can skip a step or cut a corner, I'll do it. So yeah, if I'm saying put a pin in, I reckon. Okay. These headbands make really nice gifts. I mean, everyone's got a fat quarter kicking around somewhere. When your mum, and it's usually mum says, it's your auntie's birthday. You've forgotten it, haven't you? And I've only told you one day before, haven't I? So to be able to make a cute little present really quickly that she will actually use is a good thing to have in your arsenal, isn't it? So I have that ready. Oh. Do, 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 do. Okay, right. Okay, now what you should be left with is something that looks like this. Weird. Just a strange thing that you would never usually sew. But when you turn it right side out, actually, before you get super excited, it's a nice idea to press the seams open or use your seam roller. Tell you, it's really strange sewing with no sounds on or no chatting. Ordinarily, Mabel's with me here, Zoom meeting with her friends or computer games or listening to Queen constantly. I mean, at least it is Queen. She saw the film Bohemian Rhapsody, which is brilliant. It was on TV recently, and Mabel was so taken with it, bless her. So now she plays Queen on loop. Or I've been listening, as you know, I posted on Facebook, I've been listening to bird sounds. So to not have any music on right now is really strange. What do you listen to when you're sewing? Do you tend to have the TV on, or you're listening to the radio? I like Radio 4 sometimes, or TED Talks. Carol wants to know how big the initial pieces were cut. Yes, Carol. I'm making an adult's version now, and it's 20 inches by 8.5 inches, and you need to cut 2 of those. For a child that's about 8 years old, you would cut 17 inches by 7.5 inches twice. Good taste, Mabel. I agree. Okay, right now, so we've got our funny thing with a hole at the top, and we're going to turn it right side out. Chudum, like that. And then what you should be left with is, I don't know, what would you call it? I don't know what you'd call it. It's not a thing, but the thing is, it's looped over. It's looped at the top with no seam at the top, because the seam is in the middle, and you can't do that without it being a bit amusing or rude. Sorry, so I'm just not. I'll leave you to caption it. Okay. There is a hole in the center, which is going to be the receiving hole for the other half. Metallica. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, right. So this is where our other piece comes into play now. So I now need to, I'm going back to, I'm done stitching with the first piece now. I'm going to start work on the second piece. And what I need to do is to sew that 3-inch line, and it's folded right sides together on the long edge. And I sew my 3-inch line. Da, 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 da. All right, Scoob, stop barking. What are you barking at? Only nice, friendly people in the sewing room, please. No one's allowed to get cross except the person sewing. Okie dokie. Okay, so I've stitched my 3-inch line, and I'm now going to turn the second piece right side out. Oh, I forgot to press the seam open. Doesn't matter. You won't see it anyway. Okay, so this is the fun bit, So we get our funny sort of sewn tubey thing, and we post it. You can kind of guess what's going to happen, can't you? You kind of post it through the hole in the first thingamajig that you sewed. And when you've done that, you fold the pink piece together, and exactly the same as when you sewed the blue bit. Now, aren't you glad that I used 2 different fabrics? You sew the pink bit together in exactly the same way. So you bring the flappy bits right sides together, pin them, match edges, pin them. Shush, lovey, there's no one out there. Everyone's chilling out in the lounge watching telly. I mean, you're more than welcome to join them if you want. But Scoob follows me everywhere, like everywhere. He would get in the shower if he could, and sometimes if I shower in the ensuite, he does get in the shower. It's just like, it's lovely, but it's a bit... So no, he didn't want to sit with the others and watch telly. He wanted to watch Mummy sewing. Okay, well, with the second piece, it's slightly awkward because you've got a blue piece posted through it basically, but all of the dimensions, it doesn't stop you from bringing the two halves together, but you just have to be a little bit more forceful. And definitely, I mean, if you didn't pin in the first instance, you should definitely be pinning now. And I don't know, there's a lovely contrast from the pink stitches there. I mean, the turquoise stitches on the pink. And you should be able to see me bring them together like that. Okay, so I'll bring them together and stitch them. Okay, that's one side dealt with, and I'll do the same to the other side. So when you do the other side, you might start thinking, oh, this blue thing's just now, it's getting in the way now. And that's fine. To do the other side of the pink bit, you will end up encasing the blue half, the blue rectangle. And that's to be expected, and that's absolutely fine. Like I say, it's one of those things where if you haven't sewn one before and you're putting it together, you kind of have to have faith in the instructions, because as it's going together, it's not immediately obvious what it is that you're doing until later on. But trust me, I've made a few of these now. The wearers are still happy with them. The hair is still under control. Okay, so yeah, like I say, the blue bit is tucked outside. That's to be expected. As you sew along here, be careful to keep the blue bit, the blue half, tucked out of the way from your needle. Just shove it to one side like that, and then stitch along here. Did any of you catch John this morning? I did. I offered to make him a headband, and I think he might have thought that I was joking. But the thing is, if I make him one, I do expect him to wear it. Would you back me up if I make one and make sure that he does wear it and then take a little picky for us? I'm more than happy to do it, but we all kind of got to gang up on him and get him to wear the headband. Will you do that, please? Give me a thumbs up if you get him to nag a headband, if I make one for him and send it to him. Say, look, you got to wear Lisa's headband, because you were going on at her about her sending you one. Okay, right. So here we go. This is all I knew you wouldn't let me down. All right, it's a deal. I'll defo make him one then. Okay, so what we have is a pink thing covering a blue thing. I'm just now that I've remembered to, I'm just going to fingernail press the seam open. Okay, right. So the fun bit is to turn it right side out. Yes, it worked. Look at that, people. We've got two right side out loopy bits joined together. Beautiful. There, look, that's a really lovely, that's really crisp and clear. You can see that there's the knot. There's no open edges. It's nice and strong, and there's no open edges. Maybe I'll be able to turn it upside down, and you can see the pink as well. There you go. Right, now we're going to turn our attention to putting the elastic on. Right. Now, a word about putting the elastic on. See these two knotted pieces? If you leave them to sit naturally, i.e. you don't twist any, if you leave them to sit naturally, the pieces will have the seam, the side seams at the top and the bottom, meaning that you can't see any seam here. And the other piece, conversely, will always have the seam in the middle. That's just the way it is. That's just physics. Now, when I made my first one, I didn't like the seam at the top. That just because I'm, finicky, it's not a big deal, but for me, I don't like seeing the seam. I mean, on my headband, you should be able to see that there's no seam at the top, because to me, I think that looks ugly. Thumbs up if you know what I mean. Oh, the battery coming away. That's no good. I've got to, bear with me a second. I'm just going to put the battery pack on the laptop. Back in a sec.